Welcome back to Conscious Consumption. If you are new here, welcome. You can find Conscious Consumption on Awakening Airwaves on all major platforms. That's Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. However, if you watch on YouTube, it's nice because you could go to Awakening Airwaves and then the playlist, and then you can find all the Conscious Consumption episodes back to back right there for your listening and watching pleasure. So today I do have a guest on the show. I'm very excited for this conversation. There's also a wild story that goes along with this conversation. We've tried to record a couple times on this. It's kind of wild what's been going on. But I have Emilia Moreland with me. She is a certified hypnotherapist who focuses on getting to the root cause of what's keeping her clients stuck rather than managing the symptoms. And her approach really combines nervous system science, epigenetics, and rapid transformation therapy. Her path to hypnotherapy really began years ago through working alongside with holistic physicians and her volunteer work at birth centers, which is really exciting to hear about. And I'd love to hear more about that afterwards. She is also a recording artist. Her music and her healing work she describes as coming from the same place and saying the same thing, but in different languages. It's Emilia's story, though, of overcoming this extreme, controlling religious environment background that she came from, and her breaking away, expanding her wings into an unknown world of freedom that really makes her journey unique. So, Emilia, welcome. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We're both laughing because this is crazy. Like right before I hit record on this one, we tried to record this. We got what, like 5, 6 minutes in, and
Mhm.
the whole computer screen was frozen. And my internet, everything was good. Download speed, upload speed. We were like, okay, well, this is wild. And I figured, oh, maybe I just need to reboot Zoom. So we were going to get out, get back in. Then the camera wasn't working. Then it was giving all these weird faulty messages. And it was like we weren't supposed to record, like something was trying to stop us from recording the show. So this is a wild conversation. And that's because of the fact that there is a lot of things going on right now with people coming out about this background of yours and the CRC, which I'll let you kind of explain, what that is and everything, because I really would love to hear from your side of things. But the Christian Reformed Church and this background that you have, can you kind of share a little bit first about, where you started with that, how you kind of got into the CRC and at, what point?
Yeah. And before I really get into it, I do want to preface the conversation with anybody who is finding themselves deconstructing and getting brave enough to speak out against what happened to them in this type of situation. It's really an awkward place to be sometimes. It took me a lot of decisions to make of no, I'm gonna go ahead and speak on it. I'm being interviewed for a book. Christine just entered the CCC chat, and that's her. That's me and her. She came from it too.
Yes.
But it's I just want to say, but before we really explain it, that we're taught to honor and love our families, and it's really hard when you're in a one-sided relationship and the abuse doesn't stop when you leave and you put your foot down and you actually get some boundaries around it. So I just want to encourage people to just be honest and don't embellish the truth, but even though we have like wild memories of this, but the CREC is the Christian Reformed Evangelistic Church. It was founded by Douglas Wilson. A lot of the girls that are like 90% of the kids I grew up with like ran screaming for the hills as soon as they could. And it took them some time. Some of them, they were like in their 20s, still living at home, and their parents are saying, oh my God, they ran away. And we're like, we're pretty sure it's called moving out. you know, that's how like tight controlled it is.
Yeah.
um, but it's a very Christian nationalist type of structure where they don't teach anything about like there's women that are getting married at 18. They don't know anything about informed consent. They don't even know what it is to sleep with someone and what that means, and they end up pregnant, trapped, and it's like this wild you serve your husband type of like you're nobody without God, you're nobody without the church, and you do not break the rules, and everybody is in your business. Like your deepest, darkest secrets of who you are, which might not even be that big of a deal or wild. And you've got the entire church and heads of households voting on whether you're allowed to be that or not. It's really insane. It's really intense. Um, so yeah, it's just this group that's widespread across the country, in different places. Mine was in Texas. I was raised in kind of like the North Houston type of atmosphere, and then like we had a sister church that was in Dallas, Fort Worth area, and so all the girls that went on CNN to talk about it, they're from the Dallas sect. And it's been a wild conversation that they really don't want us to have, but we're gonna have it.
Yeah, which is so important, like you said, to speak up and speak your truth and share that information and help others through that process. Because when you're speaking up, you really are helping others to give them the okay to go ahead and move forward on their journey too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what age were you that you found yourself in that church? Did you always grow up in that environment, or was it at some point that you moved into that?
So I was around 13 years old when we got to that point. When I was like a baby, I grew up in like a non-denominational church, which was like very spirit-led and really like, like my mom would be dancing in the worship with like her in the aisles and barefoot. And, it was very like more of a beautiful thing. But I think there was a lot of complaints about corruption in the church back then too. And a lot of drama and a lot of gossip and all kinds of just nonsensical stuff happening, which happens in a lot of groups of people, regardless of religion,
Yep.
period. You look at public high school,
Yeah.
what's going on there? A whole lot. So we started very spirit-led type of place, and we moved kind of we went into like home churches, which was also still fun. Like I remember they would like be singing and playing the guitar and doing their stuff and having dinner together, and it was very community feeling. And then once that kind of fizzled out and broke apart over the years, I think I was around maybe like 9 or 10 when we kind of went back to a church setting, and it was a Christian Reformed church. And then my parents didn't really love that either. And it was interesting because I really liked stuff like that. Like I was on the praise team. I would sing on the stage. My dad was on the guitar. He's my stepdad. But we were doing all of this stuff, and they're just making it such a big show. I guess to them it was like, I don't know. So by the time we went to the CREC, the structure of it was very like strict. Oh, wow, it's thundering and lightning. Sorry, this scared me a little. I love a storm. Oh my gosh. So the structure of it was like you're just singing out of hymns and psalms from one book. They're playing the piano. That's it. There's no worship team on stage. There's no clapping at the end of the song. There's no show about it. And the pastor says, peace be with you. And then the congregation is like, and also with you. And you go back and forth and back and forth, and you're up and down on your knees and all this stuff. And it's very strict, serious. Um, and it was a very corporal punishment type of environment as well. Like, like there'd be like a baby crying, and the dad would take the baby out and just like beat him out, and everyone's
Oh,
just hearing it, like what, it was very corporal punishment enabled. It was very public shame enabled. So, and it was just kind of ridiculous. Like the dress code, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. We're shopping on a website that says bend and not offend as a slogan because it's
oh my
covering all everything, everything, you know. And there's nothing wrong with modesty. It's just the way they taught it was very like, you don't want to cause your brother in Christ to sin by accidentally bending and offending by showing like a shadow of cleavage. Yes.
Yeah, because it's our fault for how
Yeah.
we present
Yeah.
ourselves versus the person that has the choice.
So yeah,
That,
it was
yeah,
high pressure on women
yeah.
to take all the responsibility for, the spiritual health of everybody around them. I remember
Mhm.
being 14 years old and the pastor saying to my mom, because he didn't want to tell my dad, my stepdad, he could see that there was some like abuse in the home as well. Like my dad, like I was not like couldn't listen to any music unless it was Christian. They like glued the radio tuner to the Christian radio
Oh my
station.
gosh.
It was kind of funny. Like my mom thought it was a great joke, and I was like, "Damn it!" Like when y'all leave the house, I literally had a tape player. I would push record, and I would record songs off the FM radio that were like my favorite normal songs to listen to, and I would listen to music in secret. Um, so it was like, he would go to the pastor would go to my mom and tell her some of like complaints about me as a 14-year-old girl, saying that the other dads in the church thought I was being too seductive, yet I was just wearing my bend and not offend clothes and minding my own business. And I was kind of like the outcast in a way because I didn't grow into it. I was like placed in at like 13 years old. So that's like, I guess, like finding a new high school. I was homeschooled, but I hear stories that kind of felt like that, where you have to remake all your friends, and there's already the cliques, there's already the judgment, there's already she was talking to that boy, Mrs. Hoffmeister is my mom's last name. And she was flirting, and like they would try to get me in trouble for, just like being acknowledged in existence. It was fun. But yeah, it was like yeah, it was just really really weird, really strict, and they had everyone conditioned so well, and like they're selling it like women are the safest here. Women are the best, they're the most cherished here. Yet, you're expected to get married right out of high school. You're expected to have 10 babies at home. You're highly discouraged to getting an education. um, at one point, my mom did apologize to me, or not really apologize to me, but she acknowledged the fact that I was highly discouraged to go to college. And I wanted to do so many things. I was like, I want to go to cosmetology. I want to go to nursing. I want to go to fashion school. I want to do all these things. Let me go to Boston and Berkeley and go for music because I love music. I've been playing since I was 5. So yeah, it's just this very controlled, and then if you don't do what they say and deviate from it just a little bit, you get like cut off from taking communion, which is a very public type of thing there. And they'll like drag you in front of the entire church and be like, you're excommunicated until you repent for your sins, and they'll kick you out, and they don't really care how young you are. I got kicked out at 18 for going to a rock show.
Yeah, which I do want to get into in just a minute, but I have a lot of questions with what you were sharing because one thing that I was really hearing with that is that it was very much so male dominant driven, and
Yeah.
it sounded like a very submissive role for the female to
Yes.
really, listen to the male, whoever it was, whether it was the pastor or your husband or whatever. So it sounded like a lot of choice was being, or I shouldn't say choice, that the women were really being forced, kind of pressured into certain roles of this is what it looks like to be a woman in this church. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
I would agree with that, but I would think that a lot of the women were even unconscious to the pressure put onto them, because this is like a very sneaky, thick identity that you're just programmed with. So you don't know why you feel so bad. You don't know why you're suicidal. You don't know why you can't stop crying. You don't know why you've shut down. You think that there's really something wrong with you, and you're so internalized. Like they do not promote therapy at all. Like I remember telling my parents, I think I need to see someone, and they're just like, "Oh, that's nonsense." And it's like, and then they don't even say you just need Jesus necessarily, because even in the Christianity stuff that they're into, they seemed very disconnected from Christ's actual teachings. And like me now, I'm not even a Christian at all. But like it was interesting because it was just about the structure of it. So for me, like I was very rebellious in the way of, like this just feels so wrong. I do not fit in. And then the other girls, it took them much longer to walk away because it was such an identity for them that I don't think they knew. And now they're all coming out and they're all talking about it, and we're all like, we were suffering the same exact way together, and we never said anything to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like if I had only known that you were going through the same thing at the same time, but we were scared to open up about it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it was very isolating. It was very it felt like prison. I've never
Oh, I
been, but
bet. Yeah, a huge depression there. So you mentioned about the rock concert and being 18 and getting kicked out. What was that
What
experience? What
happened?
rock concert? What happened?
So
And how did you break away for a concert?
So yeah, my parents, they kind of knew that I was not gonna end up like, I think that they've known since early high school and maybe even before, honestly before then, because my stepdad has been telling me crazy stuff all my life. Like you're gonna end up a drug addict working at a titty bar with multiple baby daddies. And I'm like 7 years old and I'm like, what is that? I
Oh
don't know
my
what that
God.
means. What? Like just like speaking this wild shit over my life. Sorry, I'm cussing. But it was interesting because by the time I was 18, my parents were like, well, you're a legal adult. And they were like, I guess she's going to do whatever she wants to do. And it was kind of like, oh, a reason for her to go do anything that has a little bit outside of the realm of what we were doing. So I had cousins and stuff, and they were normal. They grew up in like public school and like a regular church that wasn't so like constrictive. And my cousin called me and she's like, hey, I have tickets to a Lady Gaga show. My friend can't go with me. Do you want to go? And I was like, sure, why not? And the whole church freaked out. Everybody was like, oh my God, your soul's in danger. I went anyways, but that wasn't the breaking point. At the Lady Gaga show, that traumatized me because it was such a culture shock. I was like literally waiting for her to get struck by lightning. And like when she didn't, I was like, I think they lied to me. Oh my gosh. And the opener was this band called Semi Precious Weapons at the time. And the lead singer was very androgynous. He came out in full makeup, high heels. He was wearing pantyhose for pants. And I was like, Amanda, that man is wearing high heels and makeup. And I was just watching him in awe. The first thing that came out of his mouth was his song lyric, I can't pay my rent, but I'm effing gorgeous. And I was like, this is amazing to me. I love rock and roll and I was like this is too cool. So I just like jumped into supporting them as a band because I was fascinated and I love music. I love expression. And this guy, Justin Tranter, he was so free. He was so sweet. He was so accepting. I got to really see him as a person. That's how much I ended up supporting them as a band. So of course my church freaked out. And because I would not stop listening to their music, because I did not want to stop going to the shows, very few shows they spent in Houston, I was going to be excommunicated. And it was a moment of, I'm not fired, I quit. Because you guys say you're Christians and you guys have this thing about what that looks like to you. And I'm telling you right now, I think that this guy, this gay singer in his high heels and makeup is more like Jesus than all of you put together because this isn't it. There's something seriously wrong with this. Like, how are you seriously going to tell me that this sweet person who's artistic and expressive and amazing and yeah, inappropriate and really crude sometimes and but funny is a terrible person? Like I can see the light coming from him.
Yeah.
And what do you mean? I can't. They're like, you're not supposed to sit and eat with sinners. And I'm just like thinking about it. I'm like, this isn't sinning. There's nothing wrong with this. And so that was it. That was the breaking point. So I was 18. I was in and out of my parents' home between that point and kind of like my very early 20s, but I did leave a lot. I started leaving kind of early in high school. I was staying at my older sister's house. She's like my half sister from my our dad who passed away when I was really little, but kind of in and out of the home. So they were looking for something. Like I went blonde, and my dad was like, if you don't change your hair back to a human hair color, you're getting kicked out. And I was just like, it's blonde, stuff like that. It was just very, very, it sounds petty talking about it. Like to me, I feel like this sounds like so petty. Like, oh my gosh, she sounds like a spoiled brat. And that's really just again, more of my stepdad talking about who I was to him all my life. And it's just like there was no chance of self-expression. There was like, for me, like I'm so scared to sing live any of my songs. I was talking to Mona about this the other day, and I was like, I really just feel like I'm about to get my ass beat because I wasn't allowed to listen to music, and I'm making like not just secular music, but like spiritual secular music as well. So I feel like I'm just like in so much trouble, and I have to like work through that so that I can go perform live. It's a wild healing journey.
Yeah. That is really wild to think about how just all the examples that you gave, how the creation part alone, the self-expression creation part was so removed from
Yeah.
that group, which really shows the amount of control. Because like when I think of creation, I think of co-creation. I think of creating with source. And so it's so wild to like think of how removed that was and
Yeah.
the suppression that you guys went through. So I wanted to ask you too, because you had mentioned something about the communion piece. Can you explain, like, did you ever have any experiences with not being able to take communion into your group?
I've had a lot of them. They're kind of funny. So back when that started, they just stopped passing me. Like they would pass like actual wine and bread. And communion is, the ritualistic practice of eating and drinking the body and blood of Christ, which is weird when you're stepped
Yeah, when
outside
you
of
break it
Christianity, you're like,
down.
what the hell are we doing? And we're not doing witchcraft. That sounds interesting. What? It's
Yeah.
a very weird practice, I
Yeah.
think. I never really connected to it anyways. So when it was removed from me, I didn't feel crushed or anything. I was kind of like, oh no, boo-hoo. It didn't bother me too much, but I stopped going to church like kind of around the same time that they were like taking communion away from me. So when they wanted to drag me in front of the whole church and be like, you're excommunicated, I just like, I already wasn't going. I was like, I'm not going to that. Have fun doing that in your dreams. That'll be cute. But later on in life, it was interesting because when I had kids, I have my two children. And when I had my daughter, like I like reset my brain to kind of like a hard reset a little bit back to my roots, but I had a lot of church trauma, so I didn't want to go back to my family. I went to a non-denominational church for a little bit and they had communion every week. And like fast forward, my parents had visited that church a couple of times as well. And my daughter, she would spend some weekends with my parents. And so she had little friends at their church, and it was her birthday, and her birthday was on Sunday. And she wanted me to go to grandma and grandpa's church with her. And I took communion there, I'm like 33 at the time. So it's been quite some time since I've been excommunicated and kicked out. And after the service, like my mom has seen me take communion at my other church, and like I don't care, I don't believe in half of this stuff anyways. But they took me to the side after church, and they're like, we noticed that you took communion, and you were excommunicated, so it's really not our judgment that we're worried about, it's God's judgment. We're worried about God's judgment. And I looked at them and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't overthink it like that. I'm sorry that upset you.
That's wild.
I'm enjoying my life right now, and I'm very happy, and I'm really not bothered, but I'm sorry you are. And like nobody talked to me at lunch. It was the most weird experience. Usually people are like, open arms, give a hug, like, oh, look, are you going to come back? And I'm like, no. But nobody, no, I got like stone cold shunned, and it didn't hurt me because, I've already had this years of detachment with the situation. But I was like, wow, like y'all are still stuck on that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at 18 years old, your brain is not really even like you're still working from your prefrontal cortex, like
Right.
you're still emotionally operating.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really change until you passing like 25, 27, just depending on the person. So you guys are hung up on who I was when I was questioning the world, trialing and erroring my belief system, figuring myself out, and did not even have full brain development yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy to me. Like the science is there. What are you doing? And they're doing that to everybody else. They're doing that to their entire youth. And 90% of us walked away. Like
That's wild. That many people that actually left.
you'd think you'd rethink the structure a little bit.
Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing though that people were strong enough to leave and take that
Yeah.
step forward.
Some of them didn't have a choice. Like some of them just got kicked out because they wanted to do like Christine from the CCC. She just joined. She grew up in the same thing, and she went to what is it, the UAE or something. She's like a nurse, and she wanted to go over there, and she wasn't even leaving a Christian structure. She was going to a Christian structure over there, and the whole church took a vote on it and didn't want her to go. Like
Wow.
didn't want her to go.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's like, that's her life. Like, let her go live her life. Like,
Yeah.
that's rude.
That's really wild. So, coming from that environment and that control, how did you really step foot on your healing journey? Like once you left, and I know you said at 18 is when you kind of got excommunicated. How do you say it?
Yes, excommunicated, yeah.
But you kind of broke away, but you said it wasn't until early 20s, right, that you were living out on your own?
Yeah, in and out. So like I left around 18, 19. I was like in and out of the house. And then in my early 20s I left, and then I did come back for maybe like 6 months, I think, to my mom's house, but that was kind of the end of it because by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was kind of like, I always was channeling stuff. I was always having like crazy dreams all my childhood. Like I had like wild nightmares, and I had weird experience with like snakes and stuff when I was like 9. Like I wanted a pet snake. I visualized the one I wanted. It literally showed up on my window, and then the next thing I know, there's like 15 other snakes trying to get in my room, and I was like, what the hell is going on? It scared me, so I turned off my snake vibe for a second, but I feel that. But yeah, like just like weird stuff would happen to me. When I was 2, I saw an angel. When I was like really young, I would have dreams about like weird, like creepy spirits. Like I think it was a lot of grief from losing my dad early that made me an energetic match for like lower vibrational beings to kind of camp out around me, because there was no healthy way to process that kind of stuff. So I experienced a lot of supernatural stuff, and it was kind of a little bit demonized about me when I was growing up. But even my mom to this day will be like, "Yeah, you've always been kind of witchy." Like it's very like acknowledged about me that I've had this. So for me, when I started walking away from the whole Christian stuff and I started seeing through a lot of the holes that were just trained not to question, I went and I looked up mediumship and like what Wicca was and a lot of the new age stuff, and I found a lot of answers to protect myself energetically there. From there I stopped suffering from nightmares because I learned how to energetically protect myself. So that was cool because I felt very empowered. I felt way less fearful. And then I got into like, I started reading like tarot, which I don't do like now as a profession for anything, or I don't even have a deck right now. But I just kind of got into that. When I was in my early 20s, I also came across, it was like this old town spring in close to my hometown, and they had a little witch shop there, and they had little witch classes, and they had reiki circles and all these things. And it's kind of funny when we all, we all phased out of each other's lives and grew apart over the years, but the first time I saw Mona on Instagram, she like popped up on my FYP, and she kind of gave me the vibe of the community that I found there, that was like my safe space and my place that I could be myself. And that's like how I connected with her, because I just was like, oh my God, she's so cool. Like it reminded me of that moment of like, okay, maybe I found a little bit of my tribe. Other people are also weird like me. This is cool. So it just kind of expanded, and I'm a reader. Like I love to read, and I got so many books on magic. I got so many books on like different types of witch and different types of Wicca and everything. So I don't subscribe to anything in particular, but I definitely did my research, and I just debunked a lot of the fear.
Yeah.
So
Which I think a lot of stuff is driven by fear, and especially for the
word.
control purposes. You go back to control. But so when did your hypnotherapy path begin then?
That was by accident, actually. It was
Oh,
kind of fun. So I really wanted to be a midwife after I had my first daughter. I was like, this was so fun. I got really nerdy with the birth class I took, and I got really nerdy with like birth and delivery and everything. And so I just like couldn't put this passion for it down. But I was working full time, single mom, with my small daughter, and I'm thinking, how am I really realistically gonna like make a birth in the middle of the night if I'm going to school and have to, like be on the field, right? So I was thinking to myself, I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. So I ended up like volunteering at birth centers, and I met a hypnotherapist that went to the school that I went to, and she was talking to me, and she told me she thought I'd be really good at it. And I'm thinking in my head, that's got to be what, like $1 million to go to school for? Gosh, I don't know. And so she showed me, and I looked it up, and it was actually very feasible. I could do all of the school at home. I could really do it at my own pace. So what could have taken a year, I finished in 6 months. Just because once I got into the school of it, I was like, this is really cool. Like, I'm about to nerd out so hard on this. And I expanded that into epigenetics and nervous system work, kind of off of my own spinoff from what I went to school from, because I feel like there's so much room to integrate so much more into hypnotherapy practice, because it's subconscious work, it's neural pathway work, it is nervous system work. It's literally just training your thoughts and your cells to take the commands that you actually want to give. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I was also highly discouraged from doing that as well.
Of course.
Yeah. I had some Christian people say that is literally, that's going to take you away from God. That's like, that's the devil's playground right there.
Wow.
That damn neuroscience.
Well, it sounds like really anything that was like, healing too. So I have to ask you, there's a couple things that came to mind when you were sharing about that, but one thing that kind of is jumping back a little bit. But how did that whole experience shape your spiritual belief system from where you were to now?
Man, it's interesting because I was always kind of like taught that, God is basically outside of you. You ask Jesus into your heart and then he's there, but then he's still an external being. God is still an external being. And so without source, without God, you're nothing. You're a piece of crap sinner from birth, and there's nothing you can do to fix that. But some guy that lived 3,000 years ago died for your sins, and you're supposed to worship him for the rest of your life, or you're going to burn in hell. And hope you're good enough to get to heaven. That's an interesting thing to grow up through, because like even though there was so much that like interconflicted with me all my life about this kind of thing, and I would listen to some of the Bible stories and think, wow, that's really messed up. Why would that, what? Like, I'm one of those people, I've actually read the Bible front to back. Like, I know what's in there, and it's a really messed up book. It's really got some scary stuff in there. Like, if you introduce Christianity today to the world, nobody would pick that up and be like, yeah, let's do it. But it's an old programmed idea. So from thinking God is external to today, now, like the biggest difference is I feel like God is internal, and we were never separated from it. And we were not born some disgusting, sinful thing that can never reach, you know, whatever it is that we're supposed to reach. I guess it would be enlightenment, but I don't believe that we're separated from God at all. I think we're all big parts of God, and externalizing him, if there ever was any real sin, that might be it. Because you've now disempowered yourself, and you've victimized yourself, and you've taken yourself into pieces that you are not responsible for. And when you're not responsible for yourself and everything else is everyone else's fault, everything is everyone else's fault, like there's no accountability. And that's where you have massive amounts of people who are abusive, getting away with everything that they do wrong. Like, the biggest structure about where I came from and now where I've left is like they're really mad at me now because they can't manipulate my mindset, they can't manipulate my emotions, they can't cross my boundaries. Like, my boundaries are so strong when it comes to stuff like this, that it just like it makes their head spin when they do talk to me. And I have everybody blocked now, but like before that, it just was like maddening. And whenever they can't continue doing that with you, they just make you the biggest villain of their story,
Yeah.
just because you've got lines that can't be crossed. So now I definitely feel like I'm okay. I feel like I'm okay. I feel like I'm free, and I am not riddled with fear and shame and guilt about most things now. It's just now it's like a body programming that I'm working through myself with, expression and allowing myself to continue doing that and still like physically feel safe because I don't physically feel safe every time I'm
Yeah.
making music.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's a memory held there within your body that you're still like working on the
Mhm.
healing portion. But I think it's really beautiful, your path and the unfolding of it, of stepping out and then how that progressed and how your curiosity. I love that. I love how curious you were to get your hands on all these books and these different methods of healing to experience. Like you talked about the Reiki circles and that little cute witch shop that you experienced and everything. And I think that was so huge for you to be able to go from where you were and to see
Yeah.
that progression of, the curiosity and then where you're at now too, with what you're offering to others. Because this hypnotherapy and your healing journey is really what's helping you share with others and helping others on their path. And I think that's so beautiful. Can you speak to that a little bit about, how it feels to be able to now share this, with others and help others on their journeys?
It's interesting. It's an interesting feeling because I feel like I had to go first for a lot of reasons. I feel like I was the first to leave. I kind of trailblazed my way out of there. I had people message me like, "I'm really impressed with your devil may care attitude." Um, and also got apologies later on down the road of, "I'm sorry I treated you the way I did. I'm going through what you went through now, and it's really hard." And I see the biggest thing I see that is what I'm navigating right now is I see a lot of them coming out of it still, and entering the deconstruction movement. And they're so focused on what happened wrong to them that they are still victims of it. And when someone's in the space of that, it's really hard to pull them out because no one's going to really stop being the victim of anything until they're ready to put it to the side and be like, you know what? I get to detach from the people that hurt me, and I also get to detach from the pain. I don't have to carry that. I don't have to wear my trauma like a badge of honor. So for me, like I've let go of a lot of that. And I think a lot of people, my thing is, I feel like a lot of people confuse talking about trauma with still being traumatized by it. And for me, like, I'm not, like, I'm kind of laughing it off, like, yeah, whatever at this point. But my thing that I'm seeing right now is a lot of people just kind of stuck in that. So for me, I think the only thing I can do to help them move away from that is embody letting it go and actually like walking away from healing and being healed. Like you're allowed to be healed. You're allowed to put it down. You're allowed to walk away from that. But you can't force anything down anyone's throat, especially when they've had a lifetime of advice and suggestions forced down your throat. So for me right now, my biggest focus on that for the other people coming out of it and helping with that is really just doing the work and showing up as it's worked for me, and being a light in that way because that's the only way anybody's really going to heal is seeing that it's possible to move past it. um, and I just see so many girls that are just, I know that they want to share their voice on it and they want to be, like open so that everybody else who's suffering in silence can gather the bravery and the courage to walk away and stand up for themselves, which is very difficult. Like we have women that have been held at gunpoint with this kind of stuff in the homes. Like it's very violent. Like we've had women, they were being abused and they were covering it up, and someone went to their house and there you have a wall behind the TV with a body shape size hole in it because they're getting beaten. They're getting beaten and into this submissive form when they start waking up and standing up for themselves. The abuse doesn't stop when you leave either. It gets a little worse. Like my parents personally have taken some legal actions to try to get my kids removed from me because God forbid I be a single mom with boundaries.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
not worked for them well, but it's been kind of funny to watch them try. But it's all you can do is embody, be the example of moving past it and it being like, the beginning of something new and not the end of everything. That's what it feels like
Yeah.
for a lot of them.
Which I think is so So wonderful that you shared all that. I can't get over. I mean, I can, but it's so upsetting to hear about the suppression there and what
Yeah.
all these young females and even adult females have dealt with and the brainwashing and everything. So I do think it's so important that you guys are doing what you do now. And when I say you guys, you ladies, and everybody else, anybody that's leaving that particular situation and speaking up. I do want to ask you because we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to kind of dive in a little bit into your music because I know you mentioned there's some fear there with maybe doing lives and that kind of thing. But I do know you make beautiful music, Amelia.
Thank you.
You have a gorgeous voice, and I love your songs. I would love for you to share a little bit because I know you said, from age 5 that you were basically, creating and doing in that way, trying to be involved with music. But the music that you do now and your healing work, you had described as really coming from the same place and saying the same thing, but in different languages. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that and how that association is there?
Yeah. So yeah, I love music. I begged my mom for piano lessons when I was 5. So like that's how long I've been studying music and everything. So it's like it's me. It's all me. But when I started, I've always been writing songs. I think I started writing songs in high school, and it was kind of more like Evanescence based type of lyrics because I was very articulate with my feelings. And I've always loved writing. I loved creative writing. That was one of my biggest things in school was the writing part and imagination and stories and things. So when I started becoming more aware, I would say like maybe more in my 20s, I started becoming more aware of like the quality of thoughts I was having based on the songs I was listening to and wondering like, oh, maybe that definitely contributes to some depression. you know, these songs are depressive. So when I went into becoming a hypnotherapist, like I kind of put writing songs down for a while. Maybe for some years, I would wake up in the middle of the night with a song kind of in my head, and it would be more positive based as I was getting older because I really started paying attention to what I was putting in and focusing on pulling myself up. I accidentally fixed a lot of things with myself by getting into a little gratitude with a gratitude journal thing with a friend of mine. It was for her Bible study, which I didn't go to because I was allergic to it by then. But she was like, "Oh, I need somebody to do this little gratitude thing with." So for months, she and I would text each other 5 things we were grateful for. And I did not realize it was fixing my neural pathway system. And when some things hit the fan months later, and I would have normally have just plateaued with shutdown, dissociation, sadness, maybe a little jump off the cliff. It didn't hit me so hard because I had retrained my mind on accident to look for the brighter side of things. And so I started making my songs a little bit more on that line. But when I went to hypnotherapy school, and I really got involved in that because I do suggestive therapy. So I basically take everything that the person is struggling with and we talk through that. We go through that. We go to where it came from, where it started. And then suggestive therapy is the other side of the session. And we're reframing all of that stuff into what they want as it is right now. So I started getting downloads for my songs and writing in a suggestive therapy way. So it was like, for me, like I was still going through some really heavy emotions. And some of them are still like maybe more like sad girl songs in a way. Like my song Surrender is like that, where it's very deep in feeling of like I feel like I want to cry and I want to chase you, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna let it go and move forward and keep going. So even in the heavier stuff, like I'm always trying to reframe the language to where if it gets stuck in someone's head, it's not necessarily pouring water on a garden that doesn't need to grow. It's
Mhm.
not it's we're not watering the weeds. We're watering like our herb garden here. We're flipping it around to something more healthy. And also at the same time, like I did kind of get in my head with that too, because I didn't want to put anything out at all that could be, at all mentally damaging to anybody. But at the same time, I've gone through a very wild year and a half, and I've had to really honor myself as a person and the emotions that I've gone through and come from an authentic place with myself as an artist. So I write from my heart and I do my best to reframe it in a healthy way. My songs, I get them in downloads. So like when I get a song, it's like written out in like under a minute and I'm like ready to make it. It's an amazing process that just happens and it feels so magical. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm ever gonna quit. I can't stop. And it's all coming up and more like the songs I'm working on now for my fourth album because I'm about to drop my third one, but I'm working on my fourth one already, and a lot of the songs are really a lot more ballsy around what I've been through growing up. A lot more ballsy. So we'll see about that. But yeah.
I love that. And I love how you spoke about just the importance of how you have incorporated some of what you learned from hypnotherapy, but then also your mindset around language and when it's used with music and the importance of, like you said, not watering something that doesn't need to grow. Because I did an episode early on, and I've talked about this before, but with music and some of the music that's out there. And I definitely have listened to my share of music that maybe isn't the greatest. So I'm not saying that. But
Oh, I
there
still
are
listen to
certain
terrible
songs,
songs.
yeah, but there are certain songs that I like absolutely will not listen to because I'm not gonna like repeat an affirmation of anxiety over and over to myself. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're putting content out and putting this music out that is growing something beautiful from a place of your, creativity, but then also something that is, just very, light and, sharing that with others.
Yeah, I think we don't realize how much responsibility we have as artists to the world to do good work because, I hear so many artists just singing about, their stuff, and that's fine, it's art. But the thing that I learned also about hypnotherapy is that we're an alpha brainwave, which is the same thing as hypnotic state when we're listening to music, when we're watching TV, when we're reading, when we're driving a familiar route home, like when you kind of feel like at checkout, that's all hypnotic state. So, whatever it is you're pouring into your mind, it is giving your cells a command. It is giving your neural pathways a direction to build thinking around. And I don't think very many artists are. I think they're becoming more aware of it now, but I think for a long time, nobody really thought about that except for, a few people that tried to speak up and say stuff about it, but they got silenced and shut down.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a much more wide thing, but I feel like artists have a big responsibility to the world to make it a better place because art is supposed to do that. It's supposed to make the world a more beautiful place in all the ways that it comes. So it's a serious calling, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh,
But
for sure. Yeah. And I definitely agree because I always think of the one that I could, I mean, music too, obviously, I could feel, but how we could get wrapped up into the emotions and visually what we're experiencing with movies and shows. And that's why they used to call them television programs. But,
yeah.
like I think of that and it's just like, yeah, like, so what you're putting into your whole system as you're experiencing it, you're there with them. Like, think of how you could get so wrapped up into a character. Because I
Mm.
definitely have had those experiences. I don't know about you, but like way back in the day, like, there was a show that I used to watch the seasons all the way through. And when I came to the very last episode, I remember crying. I was like, oh my God, that's it. Wait a minute. I used to be a huge Sex and the City fan. So that show for me, like when it was over, I'm like, no. You know,
That's so
but,
funny.
but yeah, like so I think of like all the pieces that go along with it. But yeah, you're absolutely correct in the sense that the art form and when you're creating, what are you putting out there? What is your frequency signature that you're putting out there with it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. Well, I would love to ask if there is anything else that you would love to share in closing about this, as far as your offerings or as far as your music, because I know you mentioned, this fourth album that you're in the midst of writing and creating, but this third one that's getting ready to drop, when is that one dropping?
I don't have a date for the drop yet, but it is coming probably before the summer ends. So as soon as I put the date for that, it's coming. I have a lot. It was supposed to come out in April, but some things hiccuped. So I'll have some people waiting for it. And actually, there's a song on that album that is it's not out yet, but I'm being played on a radio show, and it just hit #1 on their top 10 chart. So I'm excited about
Yay!
that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Congratulations. Yay.
it's pretty cool. So people are like, "Where is it?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hold on, almost there. Hold on." But I have the rest of my music, my other two albums, they're like on everything that you can imagine to stream music on: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and I don't know, like 20 something else other digital music stores that I don't even know what the names of them are. Wherever you listen to music, you can just type in my name and you'll find it. And then I have my hypnotherapy practice, which is hypnotichealingtherapy.com. And right now, I have open enrollment for the Reset course, which is nervous system comprehension. And I do guide people through that prior to taking them on as hypnotherapy clients, because I think that if you have no awareness of your nervous system and how it works and how it intertwines with your emotional feedback, it's just the best way to get the most out of everything else that you do as far as therapy wise goes. So I teach a lot of stuff in there that I feel like the information kind of gets danced around a lot, and I try my best to articulate, some biology and how that, just explaining it in terms people understand, regardless of like their background, if they know anything medical or not. It's easy language
Is that
with
a go? Oh, sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, go ahead, ask your
No, I
question.
was going to say, is that a go at your own pace or is that one-on-ones with you? How's the
That's
read?
a self, yeah, that's a self-study. So some people take it really fast, some people take it again. Every time I have people from TikTok lives take it, they come back in my lives and they start selling it for me. So I'm gonna have to make an affiliate program for it. Just be grateful for the people that are supporting it because they really do like it. I have an emotional analysis technique for triggers that seems to get people where they really want to go. So it helps with burnout. It helps with over optimized sympathetic nervous system, just understanding yourself better and really taking apart, is this my personality, or do I need to do some nervous system awareness work? Because a lot of times we realize our personality is a survival mode pattern and it's not really us. So I like to kind of
Dive into that.
help people put things down that don't belong to them.
Lovely. That is awesome. And then I wanted to get your social media too. So how do people find you on TikTok and Instagram? And is there any other platforms?
So on Instagram, I'm Hypnotic Healing by Emilia with an underscore in between by and Emilia, and it's Emilia. The drive-through always spells it wrong. That's okay. And then on TikTok, I have Emilia Moreland Music, and I also have Hypnotic Healing by Emilia on TikTok, but that second account I don't really frequent as much, so I just kind of circulate between the two. And then I do have like YouTube. You guys can look it up on YouTube. Anything you type my name in, there's like the interviews, the music, everything on YouTube. So it's just like by my name. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Amelia, for joining us today.
Thank you for
And
having
thank
me.
you to everyone out there. Definitely check out Amelia Moreland's website and the hypnotherapy offerings that she has, and also follow her on social media. And if you're not following Awakening Airwaves, please be sure to do that and like and share. It really does help out the entire team on Awakening Airwaves, all the individual podcast shows that are within it. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.